The Kris LaBelle Show.
Welcome to episode 22 For Whom LaBelle Tolls. It's me, solo cast. You know, you'd be amazed at how difficult it is to consistently have a guest every week to be on the show. It's not that people don't want to be on the show, but they have to align with my direction, with the format of the show. Not anybody could be on here. All of our guests, all 21 of our guests, have been unique and have had a great story, or they've had to, a business they had to promote. Or you can't just come on a podcast and talk shit. There's a lot of that going on. In fact, podcasts in general, there's a lot of them. How do I, leap out from the pack, and how does this one become the best podcast? What do we have to do? I have the best videographer. We have a new sound guy coming on board. It's going to be phenomenal. But I do have guests. People hit me up. I want to be honest. That's what I would love to do, is be honest. But I can't always be honest, because there's always the possibility that the algorithms, the analytics, those that determine our engagements, it could be as simple as one trigger word that can take me down to a shadow ban. And it's like that. And everyone knows what I'm talking about. Our social media is heavily censored. It's not that there's individuals that are monitoring. The algorithms pick up on key phrases, words. It doesn't take much. A couple flags, a couple reported posts, and before you know it, your engagements drop to like a third of what they were, potentially half. It's strange how we've complied, most of us, to the ordinance that have been put upon us. And I feel bad. There's a lot of people out there that have gone 2 years without adhering to the protocols, to the mandates. It's crazy how many people found a way to navigate and survive the past 2 years. But lately, a lot of our circle and our community, those that chose to be free, it's tough because everyone's now having their reasons for getting the old in the arm. I wanted to travel. We had a wedding. My job. Now that one, that's a tough one. I have a ton of empathy and understanding for that. I'm blessed. I'm humbled that I'm an entrepreneur, and I have a couple, residual sources of income. And it's crazy because back in the day, my income came mostly from crime. I wasn't on the up and up. If I needed to make money, I'd sell drugs. If I needed to make money, I'd commit crime. Never a heinous crime, though. I was never a violent individual. I tried to go, the gang life. I tried to be a part of all that organized crime shit. It was weird, those first couple moments where you're around these individuals that are very comfortable, in the underworld. And then there's those that are in it just to be in it so people know. And then there's your 1%ers that are they were born into this. This is their life. It's never going to change. Savages sometimes. And people talk yo, I'm a gangster. I love that. I love when people refer to themselves as gangster. To me, gangster is making sure that your family has a roof over their head. Gangster is making sure that there's food on the table, bills are paid, integrity is kept. A gangster makes sure his pants fit around his waist and they're not hanging off his fucking ass. It's funny what is considered gangster in 2021, right? Because some guy's got a tattoo on his face that makes him a G. Some dude's got a gun that makes him G. Him and his 6 buddies jump somebody, they stab somebody, they shoot somebody, that makes him a G. That's where the lines are misconstrued. Most of the G's that I knew made money for those around them. That's what it's all about. The G way is making money, not breaking your word. There used to be a code, honor among thieves. And that code seems to be disrupted. People aren't playing by the rules anymore. People are finding underhanded ways to manipulate and to obscure the lines. Nobody is what they are anymore. Back in my day, if you called somebody out, if you talk shit, if you gave somebody the wrong look or put a fucking cell phone in their face with a video and started to record them because you didn't like what they were saying, that would never happen in my day. Never. You want to be a tough guy back in the day? You got smacked. Straight up. I've been smacked 100 times. Most fights I've been in, I've lost. You know? I present like I'm a tough old man, but I got tough because it wasn't the fights that I won. It's the fights that I lost. And majority of the fights that I lost are fights that I picked because I was obnoxious and arrogant, and my ego was what drove me. Being in a physical altercation, there's nothing pleasant about it, whether you're on the winning end or the receiving end. The stress that is induced during a physical confrontation is overwhelming. When you're winning, you may not think about it, but you are literally pummeling somebody into submission or submitting them physically or causing enough damage that they are no longer able to defend themselves. You see, my day, if you couldn't defend yourself, the fight was done. It didn't even matter how criminal you were or crazy. There was always like this moment where you just knew the other person couldn't do anymore. And most people would stop. But I'm on YouTube, I'm watching street fights on YouTube, I ain't seeing anybody stop. Everybody watches a couple UFCs and suddenly they know how to do MMA. They did a couple Muay Thai classes and suddenly now they're strikers, right? Because their one friend's an MMA fighter that makes them an MMA fighter. You know what it takes to train, the discipline, the necessary involvement to become a martial artist? I've been at it my entire life. And when I hit these mats in this jiu-jitsu studio at Alavanca, I'm a white belt. There are females here that weigh 40 pounds less than I do. They could tie me up and sub me in seconds. Phenomenal. See, that's why I love jiu-jitsu. It doesn't matter your size, strength, age. If you understand the fundamentals of grappling, you can stop anybody. You can protect yourself and those around you. I'm a big believer in it. It's changed my son's life and my life. And now when I go back into disciplines that I recognize, like boxing and, I'm not the greatest Muay Thai guy, but, throwing kicks, throwing punches, it feels weird now because I've developed a grappler's body. Now when I'm sparring, all I can think about is the takedown. And I think of one of my fighters that I'm managing is Ali Sharkey, who's going to be fighting December 17th on Unified MMA in Edmonton. I think of Ali and I think about the fact that this guy never did martial arts. This guy was in street fights, changed his life around, and started training full-time at Cardinal MMA. And he gravitated towards wrestling, which makes him naturally a very, very prominent athlete. Because you don't just pick up wrestling in your 20s, okay? This is something that you learn back in high school as a kid. This is something that you learn developmentally through grade school, through tournaments, through constant training and drills and classes. And this guy was able to become a known wrestler in MMA in only one fight. And that's what he's good at. He's not afraid of going in for that double leg or single leg takedown. That's what life's all about. If you looked at it from a grappler's perspective, you got to shoot. You got to take it down. It doesn't matter how impenetrable, whatever obstacle's in front of you, you have to go for it. No matter the consequence, you have to do it stealthily and with consideration. Whatever you do without thought probably won't aspire to much. I can guarantee you that. Whenever I do something half-assed, I get a half-assed result. It doesn't matter how much I manifest the reality of success. It just doesn't happen. Nothing happens unless you put the work in. And you're only as good as, your word. And a lot of people over-deliver. Not over-deliver. A lot of people over-promise. And they under-deliver. If you create realistic expectations, and you deliver on time, ahead of schedule, with a little extra, that's how you create dependability and consistency. You see, I've had investors in my time, a few. And there's a big word in finance and investments and business goings, and that's an ROI, and that's return on your investment. Everyone always thinks they have a great idea, but they never use their own money. They look for someone else's money to, venture their plan. Think about it. How often do you use your own hard-earned money to take a gamble? We don't. We look at those who are willing to gamble, willing to invest, and risk their capital and put it on the line for you, which means you need to deliver. A lot of people these days aren't really understanding what business is about. They feel a few social media posts. They feel that if they look the part and act the part, the success comes, but it doesn't come. They expect businesses to give them money to post their products, to post their brand, to think that will create some sort of synergetic effect of like both the influencer and the business to succeed. You see, I'll use an example. Bronzebacks here in Calgary is a tanning wellness center. They have multitude of services that I pay for every month out of the money that I make. I'm not looking for freebies. And I still post their products. I post their services, and I post how they treat me. And somehow I got an email the other day from them thanking me for the referrals that they've been getting. I'm not being paid for that. I'm not getting any advantages or discounts. I just really enjoy their services. The infrared sauna has been life-changing. If you're to take a look right now, I turned 45 this month, and I've never looked healthier. I don't know if it is the infrared itself or the sweat or the consistency of going, but it's changing my life. Also, general training. You know, I spent a lot of time just bodybuilding and being a fucking jacked dude. And I took a lot of steroids. Trust me, when you're a Good Life, you know, Canada's gym, and you see guys that veins are popping out of their skin, their biceps are rounded, their shoulders, and they're fucking woof. That naturally doesn't come. A lot of people are on hormones these days, and I can point them out. It's easy as pie for an old timer like me. I've already dealt with all sorts. If you have any questions in regards to anabolics, SARMs, peptides, growth hormones, I'm your guy. I know more about pharmacology than a lot of pharmacists. I've in fact had doctors email me to inquire about the effects of testosterone at higher levels and how to properly come off testosterone and how to incorporate other compounds for increased muscle mass, size, and lean body fat. This is the life that we're living. It's a world of perfection, but nobody wants to put the work in. We put ourselves online as if we're some sort of expert. You know, people get into real estate and suddenly they're posting this lifestyle, this glamorous lifestyle that they're a realtor. They've yet to sell a house, but they glamorize the job without doing the job. You've just started. I've known real estate agents for 20 years that put nothing into their branding, and they sell more houses than you will in a lifetime, just based on referral alone. That's what business is about. Consistent business is based on referral, word of mouth. Because what do you do when you look to purchase something? You ask a friend or someone you trust in, and they'll tell you where to go. It's at that point you make your own decision. When multiple people drop your name, and multiple people drop your brand and suggest that's where to go, profit from that, succeed from that, ensure that you're making a deliverable that's going to happen and be possible. You see, in business, there's ups and downs. You got to be prepared for those ups and downs. A lot of us aren't. A lot of us aren't prepared for the times that things get tight. We look to point fingers. We look to cut loose. We cut loose what isn't working, and we become sharper and smarter. We don't broaden things, we tighten things. But in that tightness, we sometimes lose out on the integrity of the business. What were the core values? What were we in business to begin with? I think ultimately, in this time, coming into 2022, the key is community. You have to look at your community and wonder what you're doing to give back. And it doesn't mean having to give back through charity or sponsorships, but what are you doing as a business owner to give back? How are you developing your community? What are you doing to improve the city that you live in, to amplify the customer's experience? You see, eventually, certain businesses become so successful, they lose sight of the humanity, the connection that you create with your customers or clients. Even if it's online, there's still a sense of genuine appreciation of business. We're so quick to pull our debit card out and not make eye contact to pay for a service, not even thinking and relishing in what we're doing. We go out to eat, and I'm guilty of it too. I want to take photos of the food and the ambience of where I'm eating so people in my stories could know I'm out to eat, when in actuality I should appreciate what's in front of me, be it the company or the food or the nourishment that I'm supplying myself with. We forget that side of things. We've become digitalized. We've become a part of the artificial intelligence that's operating our lives now. You see, this podcast is me alone with LK Visuals and my son doing something on a computer. And we're alone here in the studio. It's just you and me and this microphone. LK will then take this footage, put it onto his computer, where then he puts it onto software, where he then edits. And then we email the audio off to our engineer, who sends back the audio to go onto the video, which we then render so it could be on YouTube. And we hope to get ourselves between 500 to 5,000 views. It doesn't always happen. Then we have to go to a third-party application to advertise our product. And eventually, your own social media pages, they realize that you're selling on your pages. And when they realize that you need their tools to brand your business, they start to crush and squeeze and monopolize your engagements and your algorithms, till eventually you start to have to boost your posts. You have to sponsor your ads. Now you have to invest in your business. Are you doing it for likes? Or are you doing it to earn a profit? That's the mistake that we tend to make. We're so invested on the return of affirmation. It's the affirmation that everyone is searching for. Like, good job, I saw your post. Whoa, 700 likes. But did it make you money? Did it improve your community? Did you help someone else profit from that? That's the key. That's the key. The continuum to personal success is helping those around you. When those people know you help them, you don't have to let them know. They know. Because if you can't recognize it in how you're treated as a human, when you're helping someone, you're disconnected. You're distracted. And that's what society's all about these days. We're so glued to our technology and to the propaganda that is constantly being fed to us, we've lost sight of what's important. And now that we're passing the 2-year mark of the pandemic, suddenly climate change has become the new pandemic, right? That's what they want us to focus on. They want us to focus on climate change. They want us to focus on environmental disasters. Now they're going to take our direction somewhere else. The only direction it needs to be on is yourself. How can you be a better person? I tell people all the time the keys to my health at 45 years old and how to overcome challenge. And one of those things is hydration. Believe it or not, a dehydrated body and brain reduces your ability to register information and retain it. Your cognitive becomes impaired. Your synapses fire slower. Your body becomes lethargic. You are then holding toxins. You are now toxic. You are unable to help yourself and those around you. You then become fatigued. You then crave sugar. You now are unrested. You now are restless and making poor choices. You're finding other ways to have your serotonin enhanced. Before you know it, you're chugging down pre-workout, coffees, smunching sugar, smunchin', I don't know if smunchin's a word, but you're just taking back sugar. You're finding ways to get your body to metabolize energy, when that energy could be as simple as a 5-minute meditation. When is the last time you sat quietly for 5 minutes? 5 minutes. Do you want to know how I do it? I do it when there's a harmonious hum around me. I align my chakra with the energy around me, and I start to I'm not shy of allowing my breath to be heard. I'm not shy of letting anyone hear me share my mantra. And it's as simple as this. In just those 2 breaths, the anxiety and the tension I was feeling through my body has now resolved itself. My son, in fact, has hit me up just recently and was saying that he's been meditating 2, 3 times a day, at school, when he gets home from school, and before bed. That's the key. You have to nourish your mind, body, and soul. We have to ensure that the finances we're taking in aren't being expended as quick as they come. Budgeting is boring, and being frugal does not get you clicks. But what does get you clicks is consistency. Don't just find a reason to post. Be mindful with your post. If you're looking good at the gym, put it in your stories. If you're loving your car, put it in your stories. But when's the last time you saw anyone just post something for the other guy? On their wall, not their stories. The risk of losing that engagement for selfish, narcissistic reasons is a problem. If you want to make it through 2022, not only is hydration important and self-care and helping others, but what are you doing to educate yourself? When's the last time you even read a book or wrote on a pad of paper? When I go to the Analog Coffee on 17th, that's my spot, people are just glued to their laptops, glued to their phones. If they're in conversation, they're talking while looking at their phone. It's too much. We've talked about this before. But the reality is, just take a breath from the matrix and be cognitive of what's around you. And you'll realize soon enough, nobody's paying attention. Nobody cares. Whatever's a headline today is not tomorrow. People are so quick to fixate themselves on anything but themselves. You know, it's interesting, the success of the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, and the times we're living in. If you can reflect on history and think about Roman times, the gladiators fought in the Colosseum day after day for years during the reign of most emperors. And I feel we're back in a time where we're fixated on the brutality of MMA. Now, I love MMA, probably more than most of you, as I understand it. I love and I'm fascinated with the conditioning and the abilities of the competitors, mostly within the UFC. I've never seen anything like it. I grew up in a time where that was a movie. That was a video game, the combative level that I witness on a weekly basis now in the UFC. Could you imagine that President Dana White is constantly on multiple news channels? Fighters are getting an incredible amount of exposure and making an incredible amount of money. If you haven't noticed, the NFL season doesn't even get that kind of recognition. Hockey is losing that recognition. Baseball is losing that recognition. Boxing has even lost that recognition. And people hate on Jake Paul, but Jake Paul's made boxing kind of interesting again. However, he's done it in my perspective, most clownish way, but he's doing it. But I can't throw boxing under the bus yet. The Wilder Fury fight, the trilogy, phenomenal. There was no scripting that. Those men toe to toe. If you watch that fight in slow motion, there were no pulling punches. There was no time. There was no taking a knee. The ref, not the greatest, but not the worst. I've seen some fixed fights in my time, and that trilogy was pretty legit. Those men devastated each other, and they were prepared and ready for battle. And somehow Tyson Fury, once again, rose champion. Phenomenal fighter, phenomenal attitude, right? The ability to rise. We can't dwell on what we lost the past 2 years. We got to dwell on what we've gained. And it doesn't matter about monetary value. Start to realize what we gained is the experience to survive and adapt and pivot. And we're going to have to do it again because this is far from over. And we're about to encounter more bullshit. I can guarantee you that. And what I'm hearing on the inside, digital currency is going to be the future by March 2022, right? There's already countries that have done away with physical currency. It's now digital. And there's a possibility for us to access digital currency. You're going to have all three right there and have that passport ready. And that is a possibility because we've allowed our government to control everything. There's hardly anyone standing up. And if they are, they're considered lunatics, troublemakers, morons. We live in a very odd society. In fact, most of the Gen Z are dressing as the 90s. As a man who lived in the 90s, you don't want to be looking like the 90s. It was a tumultuous time. It wasn't the greatest sense of fashion during those times. But yet somehow it's reared back. I like the 80s trends, 90s not so much, but whatever you guys do, please don't ever go back to the 2000s. I'm currently working on a couple projects. In fact, a company called Nortec Alberta has picked me up for a marketing contract for the next 4 to 6 months. Nor and Adrian are phenomenal business owners. They're entrepreneurs. They're always looking for ways to improve the community and find a way to develop their business so they can enrich their family of 5 children. These guys are the real deal, and they put out a lot of good work. And they've taken me on for the next 4 to 6 months. And so far, it's been awesome, because consistency is the key to developing my other business. In fact, I just booked a comedy show, November 27th, with my man New Boy over at Chakalaka. He's got a new spot now called Please Don't Tell. It's in the old Black Rabbit down on by the Palliser, in the core, in the Exchange, as you guys would know as Stephen Ave. It's going to be November 27th. It's my birthday weekend. It's going to be a pop-up show. And I can't wait to return to comedy. I got a lot to say. Most of it's going to be humorous. Today, mindfulness. And every once in a while, it's imperative to be mindful, to take time and breathe, and to reflect, and how to improve. Because this podcast isn't going anywhere. We're going to continue to bang these out every week. And thanks to our sponsors, Nortec Alberta, we're able to do that. I have a new product coming out with the couch cook, Chef Shane Ball. It's going to be bone broth. And our first run at it, it's going to be called Rocky Mountain Bone Broth Company. And that's the name of our business. And our first product is bison bone broth. It should be coming out this December, 2021. Both Chef Shane and I have had this. They call him Couch. But the couch cook and I have been consuming this by about 4 liters a week. And just a matter, you can even zoom right in. My skin, my hair, my nails, my health, my energy, inflammation, fucking never been better. My energy levels are through the roof. I feel phenomenal. You see, when you drink bone broth, you're taking the essence of the nourishment inside that animal, every bit of its bone. That's where the power comes from, the nutrients. You're taking the essence of that animal, and there's no more powerful animal than the bison. And we're drinking it, cup at a time. That's the true harvesting of one of God's creatures, of this universe's most powerful creature. And when I consume it, I feel phenomenal. Starting in December, we're going to have 1,000 liters ready for sale. It'll be online, or we can personally hand it to you ourselves, because we like the human touch. Both Chef Shane and I, Couch Cook, are both fathers, businessmen, and martial artists. That guy, a little more than me. He knocked the fuck out of the last guy he fought, and he fights again coming up pretty quick, and I'm pretty sure he'll do it again. But he's a good man, and he's an avid hunter. And he's a good dad, and I'm appreciative of that. So I'd like to thank all of you for tuning in to my solo cast tonight. Next week, my fingers are crossed because I do have confirmation that Chef Darren McLean from Shokanin is going to be on the show. And Chef Darren McLean was kind enough to invite us to Nupo, which is his small, private restaurant downtown in East Village. There he prepared one of the most incredible feasts I've ever had in my life. It's a tapas style size, but man, was it incredible. Shared that with Sierra Stone, phenomenal photographer, and we had a great time. It was so good, in fact, I visited his other restaurant, Shokanin, with LK for our annual monthly business meeting. We enjoyed ourselves again. Chef Darren McLean's a phenomenal man, and I can't wait to have him on the show. My goal is to be able to shoot on location, to capture him in the kitchen, doing what he does best. But until then, make sure you guys do is the simplest task I request of you. It takes nothing to share this, like this, and tell your friends about the podcast. This is our small business. This is our startup. The better this does, the better it gets. Okay? My birthday's this month. I'm 45 years old. Don't make me stress out. Or next time you see me, I'm going to look stressed. I'm going to look tired. Doesn't matter how much bone broth and infrared saunas I'm doing. And November 27th, I'm back. Oh, yeah. Comedy at Please Don't Tell. There's only going to be 80 seats. So make sure you buy tickets in advance. It's a pop-up. It's a one night only. Don't sleep on it. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate each and every one of you subscribing. Mindfulness.